John, I'm struck by a comment you made initially, and I like the way you phrased it, where our assets don't match our aspirations, or something to that effect.
I grew up in a conservative community, in a conservative home, and fiscal responsibility was preached to me from the moment we were served oatmeal in the morning. But fiscal responsibility begins by being honest with yourself about how much things cost. And as a state, we're not being honest with ourselves about how much things cost.
Sure.
I totally agree. I think that we had cut the fat years ago, and now we're cutting muscle and we're cutting bone and really starting to cut the marrow and are coming close to killing the patient. So I really think that the idea that you can't just throw money at the problem, things cost money. Just like in your own household, things cost money. You have to pay for things that you want and that you need.
Okay. And would that fairly describe the way the rest of you were sort of talking about what you see as the largest problem in Colorado, a lack of investment or assets available to address these needs?
You can only ratchet down so much before things fall apart. And you got to commend the people that have worked within the organizations that have done so much efficiency to the point of you can't get any more out of that. So there is a structural issue here. You know, what do we expect and what are we willing to pay for?
There's this myth that things are working. There's a myth that all government is bad. There's a myth that we pick ourselves up by our bootstraps, and I'm all for personal responsibility. And that also means learning to navigate, getting the help that you need when you need it, and then pay it back to the next person or pay it forward or pay it to the next generation.
Well, I have 2 grandchildren. Brock is 6 and Maggie is 2. And I look at them and want a better life for them. And so my hope for them is that they will get a good education in the schools. They will be healthy so they don't have to use the health insurance that they, you know, I hope they have it now, but maybe they won't always have it. And I'm hoping that collectively we can do a better job of raising children. It takes a village to raise a child, and I hope collectively we can keep doing that.
And I think I agree with all of you. As I sit and look at this, I think it does begin at home. So we all have responsibilities within our immediate families to make our families better tomorrow than they are now. But secondly, in terms of the community and the idea of collective action, I'd like to see fully funded K-12 and even higher education, because one of my friends once told me about my daughter with special needs, never impose your limitations on your children.
And I think we really need a sustained conversation, and not to only talk about what we think might pass at the ballot box, but to actually talk about the issues that we think are real.
In other words, focus on what we want rather than what people think they have to settle for right now.
We need to have leaders who are willing to put that on the table, help build the appetite, help people understand why we need to invest in our state, why we need to invest in education and transportation and healthcare, how that's going to benefit all of us.
But I would totally agree that we do need leaders who are willing and able to put very difficult conversations on the table and call on people to have those conversations. We're going to have to work through some uncomfortable issues. And if we're not willing to talk about them, then they just keep sliding down the road and makes it worse for all of us.
What I'd love to see is education advocates and health advocates and transportation advocates getting together and saying, we're all fighting over an a pie that's getting smaller and smaller. Instead of fighting over that pie, we should be expanding that pie. And so if each of those groups would get together and educate their groups as to why this is important, I really think that we could make a change.
Sure.
There's just so much apathy, I think, around, and as a whole, we have to do better of getting people educated, getting people involved about the issues, and working harder on that. Every single person has to do that.
Trini?
I'd say get involved. It's not enough to just vote. It's much more important to be an educated voter, or you know, really work to get to know the people who are voting in office and the issues that they're going to face.
When you look at the current environment we have in Colorado, you've all identified some issues that have to be addressed. Many of the solutions you've talked about seem to lead to the conclusion that more resources are necessary. How do we navigate those waters? What's the conversation we need to have in this community, or what are the steps we need to take?
You know, when I think about my 3 kids, I'm very excited about the future that they will live in. Because I think as Americans and as Coloradans, we figure it out. And generations have been better. But one of the ways that we figure it out is we ask this question: what do we want the future to be? And I think if we keep asking ourselves that question, we'll figure it out.